Let me ask you a question. Do you find the younger archaeologists, the students that are starting off, to at least have more of an open mind to your work, or they might engage with that work? Or is that institution in this camp that we can only exist and continue to get funded, which might be an issue as well if they completely don't engage with the work?
It's complicated. I have come into contact with quite a number of younger archaeologists working on digs at various sites that I visited, and I've had some very freewheeling, open, off-the-record conversations with those individuals, and many of them have read my work, and many of them say that they're interested, that they're interested in the idea of a forgotten episode in the human story during the Ice Age. But they're not in a position to do anything with it, because the moment they start trying to do something with that, they're going to bump head on into the senior archaeologists upon whom their future depends. Will they get grants for their field work? Will they get promotions? All of that will be stripped away if they start even looking into the claims that I'm making of a forgotten episode in human history. So institutionally, it's very difficult for young archaeologists, even though they may disagree with the system. It's very difficult for them, if they want to pursue a successful career in archaeology, it's very difficult for them to turn against the paradigm, to turn against the mainstream narrative. And there's so many examples of this where archaeologists have had the guts to actually say, I think we've got things wrong and we need to look again. And the classic example, so recent, is the claim of archaeology that a culture that they know as the Clovis culture were the first inhabitants of the Americas. The so-called Clovis first theory, which dominated American archaeology for 50 years, claims that there were no human beings in the Americas before 13,400 years ago, and that this so-called Clovis culture, which is only called the Clovis culture, we don't know what they called themselves, but the first artifacts associated with this culture were found at a place called Blackwater Draw in New Mexico, and the town of Clovis is nearby there, and that's where the archaeologists used to go to get a drink. So they called it the Clovis culture. We don't know what that culture called itself. They made beautiful spear points and arrowheads from flint and other materials. So the artifactual evidence for their presence begins 13,400 years ago and ends dramatically 12,800 years ago, which is the beginning of the Younger Dryas cataclysm. And for decades, it was the absolutely rigid and fixed mainstream view of archaeology that there were no human beings in the Americas before Clovis, none before 13,400 years ago. Then Jacques Cinq-Mars up in the Yukon finds evidence, compelling evidence, that human beings have been in the Americas for at least 24,000 years. Okay, what happens to him is that his career is destroyed. This is in the 80s and 90s. He's putting out these new finds that he's made at Bluefish Caves in the Yukon. And what happens to him is that his colleagues in archaeology literally destroy his career. Nobody will speak to him. He's shunned in corridors if he passes colleagues. His research funding is stripped away. He's accused of all sorts of malfeasance, as though he's somehow making the whole thing up. Exactly the same kind of shit that's being poured at me. And then, as the years pass, a new excavation is done at Bluefish Caves, and lo and behold, it's suddenly recognized Jacques Cinq-Mars was right. Too late to save him from the humiliation and the destruction that he went through. So there's a lesson for every archaeologist in what happened to Jacques Cinq-Mars. If you go against the mainstream, you are going to pay a very heavy price for it. And therefore, most young archaeologists have no incentive to go against the mainstream, even though in their hearts they may know that there is something to be done. And the funny thing with the Clovis first model now is, archaeologists are now, it's typical of this. They're now saying, oh, we knew it all along. We always thought there were people in Americas before Clovis. And we got rid of that debate in the 1990s. Rubbish. There are still stories being published today saying Clovis first model finally debunked. Stories published in 2022. You know, this is it's like a zombie that keeps on popping up again. It still has its advocates. And to claim that archaeology got rid of that in the 1990s is ridiculous. It remained a strong thesis in archaeology right through into 2010, even 2015.
The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.